Okay, so let's start, my friends. This parsha, the parsha of Mishpatim, is a fascinating parsha. It's full of amazing laws that are really interesting, unique. Many, many, many pages of Talmud, all on the laws that are in the parsha. But when you're trying to find a psychology, I don't want to call this a psychology class, God forbid, not as a Torah class. When you're trying to find a biblical character to analyze and to find a practical, not just a life lesson, but to find yourself within the character of the Torah reading, you're talking about slaves and damages and negligence. It's more challenging, although there's a lot there if you just open your eyes to see the spiritual realities and the spiritual truths of the Torah. But yeah, it's connected, not compared. It's a continuation. But I will tell you that there's obviously many life lessons and many places where we can find ourselves in the many different cases of the parsha. But one classic, beautiful place is an idea of the guardians, the watchmen. A guardian is a watchman. Now, the truth is, the last year I spoke about watchmen. Now, I'm not going to ask how many people here remember last year's class. I remember because I watched it again today. But for not everyone who was here last year, it's a good class. You can go on YouTube and you search my name on YouTube and you'll find it. Are you a guardian or a borrower? Difference between a guardian and a borrower. I wanted tonight go into a more specific case, which we didn't even touch on last year. Didn't even touch it because it's a more specific case that has its own whole unique set of self-discovery within that. Okay? You guys with me? So, before I start reading the actual text and show you what we're talking about, some introduction is going to be important so you'll understand what we are talking about. Let me just find the notes over here. So we know that there's different kinds of watchmen. Why is it done? There you go. So the different kind of watchmen. The first kind of watchman we have is the unpaid guardian. In Hebrew, the shomer chinam. A shomer chinam is literally a guy who's doing you a favor. You're going out of town. You ask him, "Could you watch my? Can you watch my? Give me something. Give me an example." What? You're my dog. My dog. Can you watch my dog? Perfect example. We have a name for the dog? Rover. Okay. So Michelle's going out of town. She's going somewhere really exciting, and she asks Robert to watch Rover for her. Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, Robert. Because obviously Steve and Michelle are going together. Luke will be out in school. So Rover is going to be. Robert's a nice guy. Robert says, "Sure, I'll watch Rover." Now he's not getting paid for it. He's not getting any benefit. He's doing a favor. So because he's only doing a favor, his level of liability is fairly small.
Don't lose my job.
Well, we'll pay him if you want to do a good job. So if you're not paying him, which is the case we're talking about, if you're not paying him and something happens to the dog, if Robert was negligent, he left the door open and the dog, disappeared, whatever, then he's liable and has to pay back however much Rover is worth. But if there was a theft, his home was robbed, stolen, or there was an accident or something happened, unless there was negligence, something you didn't guard it properly, he's not liable to pay back. Sorry, it was stolen. Yeah. However, if you were paying Robert, let's get paid, right? He's a good guy. So if you're paying Robert, now his level of obligation has obviously increased. He's getting paid for it. So no longer is it a favor, it's a job. So therefore, his level of commitment is also much greater now. And therefore, if it gets stolen or any kind of avoidable damage, such as loss or theft, etc., in those cases, you would still have to pay back the dog to Michelle. The only time that Robert will be off the hook is if something completely unforeseeable happened. Lightning, he was taking the dog for a walk, and all of a sudden lightning came and hit the dog. You know what I'm saying? That's called an usher. It's called like something you can't even what? She's apologizing. And if Heath was here, he'd say, only Robert would have lightning hit him right now. That's what Heath was saying. It's true. Robert would have the Mazda, the lightning would hit him as he's walking the dog. The lightning was scraping the heaven. Only twice, yeah. So lightning hits, Robert's off the hook, and we'll believe you that it was lightning, especially in this depends if there's witnesses. If it was in a public place, we would demand witnesses from you. If you were in a place where there were no witnesses, you wouldn't be, whatever. But that's the general gist of the Then you have a third category of a watchman, of a guardian, who's not borrowing it or who's not watching it for the sake of the owner, but is a borrower. Here, Robert says, I want to borrow the dog. I'm feeling a little lonely. I have a girl. I don't know. I want to impress. I want to show I have a dog. And so Robert is now borrowing, not to guard for the owner, but now it's the borrower. And because now the borrower is getting benefit out of borrowing this object that he's borrowed, his level of obligation is even higher. And he will be obligated to pay back even if lightning struck. No matter, even if it was a totally unforeseeable circumstance, he has to pay back. No matter what, the only exception would be is if it was during the normal use of the object, or if the owner was there at the time. So if I was walking, or if Michelle and Robert walking the dog together and lightning hit, Michelle was there, he'd be up. But otherwise, he has to return the object no matter what. Got it? Those are the laws of a guardian. And if you watched last year's class, we discussed these three different levels, different ways of viewing your creation and your purpose in the world, and why God is here. Unpaid guardian or a borrower, you can watch last year's class. Now I want to talk about a specific case. What happens where the animal is given to the guardian? So we'll use Robert, although he's going to do something bad now. So we'll say it's Robert. Let's just say Joe. And then Joe says it was stolen. But really, who stole it? Joe. The guardian decided, I like this dog. I want to keep Rover as my, I want to keep the dog. So he says it was stolen, and really, he's keeping it for himself. And now witnesses come 2 weeks later and say, hey, we just saw, Joe walking Rover in the park, and we're pretty sure that's your dog. Chutzpah. And the witnesses come to court, and they say to the judges, this dog, this animal, he was there, this is it. We saw he actually kept it for himself. Or another variant of the same idea, let's say Robert or Joe, let's say Joe, actually, instead of being an unpaid guardian, because the unpaid guardian is not liable for theft, he decided to use it for his own benefit. Once the guardian used the object in his possession for his own benefit, is he still an unpaid guardian? No, what is he now? A borrower. He's a borrower. Now he borrowed it. Once you become a borrower, you got to pay back no matter what. So even if it really was stolen, but if you used it for your own benefit before it got stolen, it wasn't stolen from an unpaid guardian. It was stolen from a borrower. So his level of liability is much, much greater. You understand? Okay. Now that I've explained that all to you, now let's read the text inside and you'll actually understand what the text is saying. Let's open this. A minute. Okay. Sounds okay. So here is chapter 2 of in the book of Shmos. If a man gives his neighbor money or articles for safekeeping, we're talking about an unpaid guardian in these verses, and it is stolen from the man's house. If he shall pay twofold. There's another general rule you should know, that the punishment for a thief who's caught with the theft or caught stealing is not just to pay back what he stole, but to pay back double. So Fred stole the dog from Joe the watchman, and now we find, so Joe is innocent, he's an unpaid watchman. We find the dog by Fred. Fred doesn't only pay back the dog he stole, he pays back double. Now Rover gets However, verse number 7, if the thief is not found, the homeowner, meaning the guardian, shall approach the judge, described as him, to swear that he has not upon his neighbor's property, meaning he was moil, meaning he used it for his own benefit. He was no longer an unpaid guardian. So he swears, I didn't use it for my own benefit, I was not a borrower. And then we find out this still, you'll see verse 8. For any sinful word, meaning the sinful word is where he lied under oath He said, I didn't steal it when he did steal it. Or he said, I didn't use it for my benefit when he did. For a bull, we're going to go back to these words, which is why I bolded them. For a bull, for a donkey, for a garment, for any lost article, which he will say that this is it. The witnesses will say this is it. The pleas of both parties of the judges, and whoever shall twofold to his neighbor. So telling us, for anyone he swore falsely, coming to the judges, he swore, and after he swore that he didn't use it for his benefit and that it was stolen, that witness say, hey, we saw Joe walking that beautiful, cute dog, in the dog park, and the witnesses come to court, and whether he stole a bull, or a donkey, or a lamb, or a cloak, a garment, for any lost about which he says it was lost or it was stolen, this is the law. This question we're going to address tonight is understanding what is the purpose of the Torah telling us about the stolen bull, the stolen or the lost donkey, the lost lamb, or the lost garment. It could have just said for any lost article. The laws of theft and loss are the same thing, right?
It doesn't say rover.
It doesn't say rover, that's true. It says a bull or a donkey. So should rover be a bull or a donkey? But when it says bull or donkey, it does not exclude any, obviously. The Torah says clearly regarding an ox that gores. Now, the Torah talks about an ox that gores. It doesn't mean exclusively gores as opposed to but this is the most common scenario. The most common animal to gore is an ox. The Torah says ox. But any animal that pushes or damages another animal is liable. Same thing here. We're talking about any lost article. It could be a pet puppy. It could be your car. It could be anything. The question is, why does the Torah need to give us all these specific examples that we'll talk about? But before we get to let's first understand, how does this relate to us? We're talking about guardians, watchmen in the Torah. Can anyone tell me how they think that a watchman is something that very much relates to us, every one of us in our day-to-day living? What are we watching? Whose watchmen are we? We're watching our children. Okay, but those of us that have children at home, because once they're out of your home, you're not really watching them anymore. You're worrying about them, but you're not watching them. Big difference. Yeah. Okay, but that doesn't make you a guardian. A guardian, a watchman. I say a watchman. I don't mean you're watching both ways before you cross the street. I mean, what I mean is a guardian, a shomer. A shomer means a custodian. There's a paid guardian, an unpaid guardian, a borrowing guardian. But also, when you borrow, you're also responsible to watch your borrowing. So, where do all of us, every one of us, have a job as a guardian? Soul. Excellent. God decided to give every single one of us, very good, a soul. And we are the guardians of our soul. We are the guardians of our soul. When God first put Adam and Eve into the Garden of Eden, what does it say? God says, and God took man, in place of the Garden of Eden, la'avda u'lishamra, to work it and to guard it. That's what probably should put this in the text. The explicit given is black and white in the Torah. The reason why God created man and put him in the Garden of Eden was to work to guard the garden, or to guard the soul that God had given him. And so, since we know that everything spiritual is everything spiritual, and in fact, the physical laws we have outgrow truths. Torah says this. When we learn about laws of guardians, what we're really learning about, besides the technical laws of a person that asks someone to watch their dog when they went on vacation, is about the responsibility and the liability that we have to God as guardians of God, of the neshama, of the holy, pure soul that God entrusted into each and every single one of us, every single one. No, God gave us his soul. The soul is a part of God. God trusted you with a piece of him. So you are the guardian of the part that God gave you. And Esther's the guardian of the part that God gave her, etc., etc. Now, by the way, we're talking here specifically, about guarding the soul, and the verse we're talking about, the guy that messed up, this negligent guardian that's not doing a good job. It's very much connected to an oath. If you've ever learned Tanya, right? What is a very opening line of Tanya? Quotes a statement in the Talmud, a brisa that tells us what happens. Opening line in Tanya. Anyone knows? They grab the book. I said they make the swear. It says that in chapter 3 of Dida, Mashpin Aiseti Tzadik V'Alti Rasha. They make the soul swear that the soul be righteous and not be a sinner. Right? Remember that? It's a very, if you learn any Tanyas,
What was the second part?
they make the soul swear that it will be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha, and then even if the whole tells you you're a rasha, you're a tzaddik, you're always like a rasha. So the soul coming to the world is connected with a shvuah, an oath to God. So the tzemach, everything I'm going to tell you, by the way, is not made up. It's from the tzemach tzedek. But the way the Rebbe, in a beautiful sikha, along with Yosef, explains it much more. So the tzemach tzedek explains this, that the oath that we're reading about in this Torah reading, the oath of the guardian saying, I didn't use it for my own personal benefit. I didn't steal it. I didn't lose it. And he was lying. Is the story of every single Jew that made an oath to God when we received our soul, that we swore to protect our soul, to guard our soul, to keep it righteous and pure, to fulfill the purpose for which God gave us a soul. And then what happened? We messed up. In various ways. Either we stole it, or we used benefit. God gives us life. God gives us a holy soul. And we lose it. It's naved, that's lost. We lost it. Whoops. Instead of using my divine energy, my life, my vitality for good, meaningful, productive purposes in the universe to help others to do good things, instead I use it to watch Netflix. Right? And then I wake up, the day goes by, I'm like, whoa, what did I do in my life today? You ever had that experience? Like, what did I do today? Day of life. And you lost it. You lost it. God gave you a day, a year of health, of energy, of life. And my story to unholy places. I lost it. I wasted it on Netflix and on doing nothing. It can be stolen. Holy life, the vitality of our bodies, of our existence, could be stolen and taken to unholy places. Places where it doesn't belong. We can use it for our own personal benefit. We indulge. Now we're using it for benefit. To just be crass, materialistic, indulgent, hedonistic. And then all of a sudden, comes to collateral. God's coming to reclaim the lost object, his entrusted object. And we swear to God, I don't know how. Can we relate so far? Yes. This is the Bible. Every one of us, are guarding a whole soul entrusted to us by God. And we have to be careful to make sure that we don't take that holy soul and let it be stolen. Energy and holiness be taken to unholy places. We have to guard it to make sure it's not wasted. No day should go by where we don't do a mitzvah, where we don't learn, where we don't utilize energy in holy ways. And if a day goes by, and at the end of the day, we did nothing of meaning or of goodness in that day, the day is lost. Which means that the life that God entrusted in us is lost. It's gone. And now what? And now? Okay.
If I do at least one good deed, can I still watch Netflix?
So the truth is, every second is another gift from God. But I think, at least in general, there's a concept, at least that Avram came with his days. That there should never be a day that you can't show what you accomplished that day. That to say that we're not going to waste a minute of our lives, although ultimately and ideally would be like a lofty, but realistically speaking, we only downtown, or as long as we can ensure that I can say to God, I did something meaningful with the life you gave me today. I did a mitzvah today. And if a day goes by where we can't show what we did meaningful with that day, then we got a real problem.
No Netflix.
No Netflix the next day. You got to do two. You got to do two. You got to make it up the next day.
As long as you can do it the Torah or Netflix, right?
I throw the Netflix. I just picked Netflix as an example. That's one of the easy ways. It could be TikTok. It could be Instagram. It could be it could be anything. Let your divine energy slowly just get lost. Get lost. Have to learn on a daily basis. We talk about this for a long time. Avraham Avinu came. It says he came with his days. What did he came with his days? The Zohar says he came. He could show you every single day of his life. What did he accomplish that day? There was no day that was lost. No day that was wasted. Didn't exist of his life. There was no wasted day. That is an idea that we should also strive for. That's not. You can also watch Netflix, but you can make sure that there's an hour every day that you're learning, an hour every day that you're doing something beautiful, meaningful, holy, spiritual. Anyway, so we understand the idea of being what's called moil b'shma. We go against the oath that we made. We're moil. Instead of being proper, instead of doing the right thing, we took this holy God in our hands and we used no benefit. That Tzemach Tzedek explains is explaining to us, how does this loss happen? How does this energy get lost? If you look back at the verse that we read before, it specifies. The Torah gives you specific examples of how your divine collateral, your divine gift could be lost. What are the 4 examples? Tell us. If you look at verse number 8, you're also shy. Verse number 8 said clearly, we'll read it again one more time. For any sinful word, which means any time that you utilize this divine energy, you swear against a bull, for a donkey, a lamb, for a garment, which are all for any lost art. So each one of these 4 examples are actually 4 different kinds of Yetzer Haras. 4 different kinds of negative impulse, negative character traits with us. And one of us has a donkey or a lamb, one of us has a garment, and that is the reason why we got lost, why we got confused, why we didn't do what God entrusted us to do. So I'll go through. I'll do it really quickly. One of them. How did some of these 4 different kinds of human character traits, as defined by the ox, by the donkey, by the lamb? Okay? So, first the ox. That's the easiest one. What is an ox? Well, describe to me an ox. What is an ox? Strong.
Working animal. Yes. It's a hard worker.
Hard worker, that's true. An ox is the animal described by the Torah as a shur nagach, a goring ox. I already mentioned this before, but I not like I planned to, but I did. That when the Torah wants to describe an animal that does damage, the animal that the Torah chooses to use as its poster boy of a damaging, dangerous animal. Because the ox is dangerous. And the ox, you wave a little red bandana in front of it. Next thing you know, the bull sees red. Just run for your life. And if you're in Spain, that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's go run. Hey, Michelle's wearing a nice red sweater. All good. So if you're in Spain, you think it's fun to go get killed by a bull. I'm not sure. Hey, it's cruel, but besides for that, it's... Anyway, you understand the point? I mean, it's very easy to explain what is the idea of an ox. It's a person that has such strong desires, such strong impulses, such strong passions, he just can't hold himself back. He knows it's wrong. He knows she really wishes she couldn't do it, but the ox saw red. You know what I'm saying? The bull saw red. There's no stopping anymore. It's like a bull in the china shop. Cat, too full of desire. And many of us can, and by the way, we can at different times experience different animals. And there are times, and all of us can relate to, where we've had this experience where I know I shouldn't do this, but I just want it too bad. I just want it. I can't hold myself back. That is the ox. The Torah is describing to us in spiritual terms that is causing us to fail as the guardian of God. Okay, let's go to the next one. Slippery runs, whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. Next is the donkey. What is unique about the nature of a donkey? They're stubborn. They're very stubborn, which is also true. And the Talmud, I'm going to get to the stubbornness later, by the way, when we talk about the good. But the Talmud tells us that a donkey, even in the heat of the month of Tammuz, in the middle of the summer, they never get hot. And I Googled it now to make sure it's actually true. So according to Rabbi Google, so I'm actually Dr. Google here because it's like so donkeys enjoy the sunshine and warmth for longer than mules and are less likely to seek shelter from the heat and the sunlight. From a different article I just saw that came away on the top of Google, donkeys are better to arid, hot climates and hence higher sunlight levels. Meaning, most animals, you put them in the sun, put humans in the sun for 10 minutes, we're melting, haywiring. But a donkey, you put them in the sun for many hours, their bodies don't get heated up. They remain cold even in the heat of the summer. This is also a unique kind of Jew. You have a person, they just don't heat it up no matter what you do. Yom Kippur in the middle of the Eilah. The whole shul is like on fire. He's checking his watch, how much longer. That was also like on fire. I was it? That's where he's holding at that moment. There are people, we say like pagav nogas, an expression that's used in my Farbrengens. The words that were shared, like they didn't touch him, they didn't affect him, they didn't impact him. He heard like nothing happened. They're cold. They're cold. They're apathetic. They don't care. They're not interested. They don't get excited. They don't get upset. They don't get interested.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong? What do you mean?
Donkey will get upset when it's harassed by certain animals. And I mean, they will bite.
Yeah, I'm not saying a donkey doesn't fight. I'm just telling you.
They will bite.
Yeah, but that's not what I said. What I said is they remain cold-blooded, even in the heat. So the point is that even when the sun is shining on them, they stay cold. They stay cold. And a Jew, at times, you got to be aroused. You got to be inspired. You got to wake up. You got to feel a little bit of it's Torah today. It's something. They're cold. You can't get to them. And because they don't get excited, they don't care, they don't have any energy, they're cold to Judaism. They wasted a day. Big deal, I wasted a day. No big deal. It's a mindset of coldness, of apathy, that allows a Jew to do a lot of sins and get very quickly lost from protecting the gift that God has entrusted into us every morning. Okay, so far we're good. What's the third one? The lamb, the sheep. Now the sheep are born followers, right? Well, sheep are sensitive? Okay. Sheep are also not very independent. In fact, they have no independence. Sheep are born followers, and they can only go where someone tells them to go. They cannot go any place by themselves. In fact, and I searched this, that they can be standing a mile from a pasture, and they wouldn't find the pasture by themselves. They have no sense of direction whatsoever. Wait, you know what? No, that's why they need a shepherd. Sheep have no sense of direction. They cannot start out in the morning in search of pasture and come back home where they started from. So if a sheep goes to the pasture, it will not find its way back to its pen at the end of the day.
What about the male, the rams?
We're talking about sheep. I didn't Google rams. I don't know. But this is sheep. The rams are looking for the sheep. You know what I'm saying? They're following the sheep that are following the shepherd. So sheep have no sense of direction, and a sheep left to himself cannot find food. And in fact, there's no animal more incapable than a sheep, which is why sheep are the most docile of animals, because they realize they have no idea where to go. So they can fight with you and argue. A dog knows where it wants to go, so he'll argue, will bite, will listen, will stay on the leash. It won't, but it can go somewhere. Find his way back home. All the stories of dogs going back home. Sheep knows that it can't go anywhere. So whatever you tell me to go, I go. They don't argue, they don't refuse, because they recognize how incompetent they are. And so what is that? What does that represent in the story of a Jew? A Jew is lost. He's just following after the herd. Whatever everyone else is doing, he's doing too. There's no sense of Jewish independence, of Jewish pride, that I can stand out in the crowd, stand I'm proud of who I am. I say, this is who I am, this is me. They have no sense of self. So the peer pressure is like an understatement for them. So unless you can ever find your identity and have morals and values that you believe in and that you're willing to stand up for, you will get very quickly washed away with all the garbage of the world and all the, whatever the world says. And and they end up just following the rest of the world. We're going to talk about that soon. We have the last kind of animal, which is, not animal, last kind of Yetzer Hara, which is the garment. Now, the garment, you're going to need to trust me with the text. So, in the Hebrew word for a garment is beged. Beged. Clothing. So, we'll go back to so here, Isaiah. Look at Isaiah chapter. From the end of the, we heard. I thought I saved this. From the end of the earth. Yeah, I thought I had the here. The end of the earth. No, it says in the Torah for the ox or whatever, and the garment. From the end of the earth we heard songs. The righteous shall be upraised. And I said, I have a secret word. Hey, listen to these words. Baigdim. If you read the Hebrew, Baigdim bagadu, which means the treacherous. Yes, the treacherous have dealt very treacherously. 5 times the word beged or bagad, which means treacherous. I had to show you the text so you would understand, or else Israelis would doubt that the word beged is from the word treacherous. Rebel. But here you see it 5 times. The fire says, well. Boged, that's what I'm exactly. To rebel. Boged to rebel. And it says treachery regarding Babylon, the Medians, the Persians, the Greeks, which is Rome, who had all enslaved Israel before the redemption, etc. The point is that the Hebrew word beged, which means garment, is directly related to the word boged, which means to rebel. There's a kind of Jew, a kind of Yetzer Hara, that likes to do the opposite. Some people are called bedafkin in Yiddish. Say, I'll do the opposite. They feel a need. The beged, this cloak, the spiritual manifestation, the spiritual character in our Torah reading is the person that feels a need to prove that they're so. Go here. He wasn't so smart, but he knew how to argue with anyone he could argue. He loved to argue. He was really good at it. And whatever you say, he can find a way to take it apart. So anyway, he comes up to heaven after 120 years. He passes away. He comes up to heaven. I don't hope you guys will appreciate the Shiva joke, but hopefully you'll appreciate it. He comes up to heaven, and he was no him. So in heaven, God is a big scholar. Tell us one of your Torah thoughts. Give us one of your original Torah. So the rabbi was caught a little off guard. He didn't want to have any Torah to prepare. Just to God, I have a thought. You say something, and I'll prove you wrong. Yeah, I'll slug you up. So that's the kind of person. Whatever you say, I'll prove you wrong. You said this just for the sake of arguing. And there's some people that suffer from the sickness. There's whatever. It's a personality, it's a character, and we all have it at some point where we feel the need just because that person said it. Yeah, we feel the need to make big holes for ourselves sometimes. All go through it. It's part of proving. We all, and the truth is, all 4 of these things that we've all experienced in one way or another, times in our lives when we were an ox, and we felt these impulses and urges, and we just couldn't resist. We've all had moments where we were like a cold, apathetic donkey that no matter what was happening, we didn't care. We were apathetic. We were cold and a sheep, but we knew it was wrong, but whatever, we just went with the flow. We didn't stand up for what we knew was right. We've all had moments where we, just to make a statement, we did something that we shouldn't have done. Okay. So these are the kinds of Yetzer Hara that lead a Jew astray. Now, why did I want to teach this? The Rebbe talks and goes through this talk. It's a machzad. So although all 4 apply always, in each generation, in each time, you have one which is more predominant. This is the part that really, the one that's more predominant. What's the one that's more predominant in our generation? Let me ask you, what do you think of these four? Of the impulses, of the coldness, of the lost sheep, the herd mentality, and of the rebelliousness.
The sheep.
What do the Jews today suffer from? I heard sheep and I hear rebellious. You're saying sheep. I hear a few sheeps. The rebellious. So the Rebbe says, I actually felt the same way, like Kareen and Steve, the sheep. Jews today that have any sense of self-identity or of self-pride, self-value, literally are going along with the herd mentality. They don't have a sense of direction. No sense of direction, which is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And you see it described in the verse. Look at this verse for a second, which the Rebbe quotes. If we go to describing the Jews in exile, Jeremiah describes all the Jews in exile be like, which means a scattered sheep is Israel, which lions have no one. A scattered sheep is. So here we see a verse where the Jews like a sheep, a scattered sheep. Why a scattered sheep? Because a sheep is a scattered sheep. It has no direction. A sheep doesn't know if it's coming or going. And there are sadly thousands of Jews today that are scattered sheep that have no sense of direction. They don't know where they're coming, where they're going. They don't know what's right. They don't know what's wrong. They don't know what's Israel, what's Palestine, what's Jewish, what's not Jewish, what's modern day, and what's authentic Torah values. They have no idea. No, I just call them lost sheep. That's all I call them. Nothing worse than that. They're good people. They mean well, but they're just misguided. They have no sense of, they have no compass. They have no sense of direction. They think they have a compass, but their compass is not theirs. It's what they saw on TikTok. They saw one of their friends on campus said, this is the way it is. And with no thought, with no brains, with no intellect, with no nothing, like a sheep. They literally got online and they're just marching along in the protest and they have no idea what they're talking about. If they would know and they would be rebelling, then we have a problem. They're innocent. They're lost. They're lost sheep, and the Jewish people are suffering. There's lost sheep. Lost sheep. And the Rebbe talks about this. How a Jew has to have a clear sense of identity, pride. And when you see a Jew walking down the street, it's obvious. Oh, this is a Jew. And a Jew should walk. A Jew shouldn't try to hide and blend into the crowd and try and fit in. You have all these Jews that try and fit in with the crowd. Trying to outgo the guy. Like the joke about this Jew wanting to become a member in their country club, the Jews. So he comes to fill in the application. So he fills in, it comes, what religion are you? What nationality are you? So he writes Goyish. Goyish. That's my nationality. I'm Goyish. What does Goyish mean? It means nations. We're Goyish. I'm nations. You know it. Goyish. We're so desperate to fit in. And this is a big problem. I'm reminded of a beautiful story. Before we go to the answer, so there's a beautiful story. I for sure said before, a long time. Because when the first train started coming through Russia, first train was like a major thing. Everyone heard about these trains. No one knew how they looked. Like wagons with no horses. It was an amazing, I could spend a long time on the story, but we're running out of time. It was an amazing invention to have a automatic, almost like AI, you know what I'm saying? No horses running on the wagons. It's crazy. So anyway, there was this guy who really a farmer, a simple, innocent, naive farmer. He heard about the trains. He heard stories. He really wanted to go on the train. He heard it's expensive to buy a ticket. It's expensive. So he's saving up. Finally, the day comes. He's going to go on his first train ride to Moscow. He's never. So he has a whole, pouch of money, and he comes to the train station. Comes to the ticket booth. He comes. He has no idea how to read. So he has no idea how much a ticket costs. So he comes to the ticket master. He's very worried he won't have enough money. So he puts all the money in his pouch onto the thing. He says, "Do I have enough money for a ticket?" The ticket master, of course, he's all this money. Says, "Yeah, I think you have just about it's Russia after pockets. All the rest pocket." He gives him at least a first class ticket. I'm saying at least he was nice enough to give him the first change for himself. The guy gets a ticket, says, you tells him, hand over there. Train's going to be here in a half hour, an hour, whatever it's going to be. The train will be here. Okay. So the guy's waiting there, holding on to his ticket. He puts his ticket like he's afraid he's going to lose it. He was so nervous. The guy's on anxiety. He puts it like inside, like his money, but like inside his shirt, inside it, like hidden under all of his layers, hidden that it shouldn't get lost. He's standing by the station way before the train comes. He's waiting and waiting. He's afraid he's going to miss the train. He's going to miss his seat. All he sees, like by the side of the station, he sees some troublemakers, some young guys who were not planning on buying a ticket to get the train. Like a free stowaways in the baggage compartment. What does he know? Evades from garnish. You know what evades from garnish means? Yeah. He doesn't know about anything. He doesn't know about anything. So he decides, obviously, if they're hiding over there, that's where I need to stand with them. First, they were like, the crowd comes. I'm supposed to stand with them. He sees all of a sudden the train is coming. This massive train is coming in. And he gets so, shook the train is coming. And he sees that as the train is coming, he's so afraid to miss it. Before he even comes to guys, they jump into the luggage compartment. So what does he do? He jumps in after them. He jumps in. What they do is he does follows the, jumps into the luggage compartment. The luggage in there and everything. And this guy's a big guy. He's a big Russian, Bolvan. And he's a little crowded. The luggage back is comfortable. They paid all this money. He's like, they're dumping stuff in it. But the other guys tell him, shh, don't make a sound. So they tell him, don't make a sound. So, okay, he's following order. He's not making a sound. He's lying. They're throwing stuff on him. Shh. Anyway, the train starts to go. And the guy, finally, they're trying to make himself a little bit comfortable in this, and his feet are the baggage compartment of the train. So he's cramped, big guy, big leg, strong Russian. He pushes his feet, and all of a sudden, his feet come through the floor of the floor of the car where the passengers are. He's happy. He finally wants to stretch out his legs now, but they were cramped. He was getting a little ache in his back. He's comfortable. He's lying back. His feet are up in the air. Not too bad. The conductor is coming through the train. What does he see in the middle of the aisle? Some guy's boots coming out of the floor. So the conductor gets a few guys to help him, and they start yanking at this guy's boots to pull him up into. He's laying there enjoying his ride, his feet up in the air in the dark. All of a sudden, he feels himself starts yanking at his legs. They're pulling at him and pulling him. Finally, pulling him up through the upside down. And here he's hanging by his feet in front of the whole car and laughing at him. And the conductor starts to scream at him and shout at him, "What are you doing? You didn't buy a ticket. I'm going to throw you out the moving train." He says, wait. I have a ticket. So you have a ticket, liar? I promise you, before you throw me off, I have a ticket. So they put him down. He takes off his coat. He takes off his shirt. He takes off everything to go like deep down where he hid it like again in his money chest. His ticket. He pulls out the ticket. The conductor's looking at him. He's pulled him out of the baggage compartment. He's looking. And finally, the conductor says to him, "I don't understand. You have a first ticket. What are you doing in the baggage compartment?" And this is a story of many Jewish people. God gave us a first-class ticket. God gave us last week's Torah. You will be my Am Segula. You will be my chosen people. You will be for me a Mamlechas Kohen V'Goy Kodesh. You will be a priesthood, a kingdom of priests. You will be a nation. And we make the mistake of following the scum, the people that are jumping in the stowaways, and we jump into the baggage compartment, hiding luggage, first class. Have a first class ticket. This is the Yetzer Hara of many of the Jews struggling in being good guardians of the soul that God has given. They want to do good, but they don't know what the ticket is worth. They don't know where they don't know how to what's on the train. They don't know that no one never before. They never saw a train. They don't know how to read what it says, stands here, stands there, whatever. They don't know how, so they follow whatever they see people doing. They see people jumping in the baggage. They jump in the baggage. They'll be educated if they were learned. They never saw a show before. They never saw holiness before. They never saw authenticity before. So okay. This, my friend, is it what? L'chaim. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. This, my friend, says the Rebbe, is the most difficult kind of lost object. There's all kinds of lost objects. You can have a lost ox. You can have a lost rover. You can have a lost shirt. People lose their sweaters all the time. Sheep is the most difficult to return. In fact, if you look later on in the book of Deuteronomy, if you look at the book of Deuteronomy, it talks about lost objects, and there, where it talks about, this is very, very quickly, where it talks about you shall not see your brother's ox or sheep straying and ignore them. So shall you do with his donkey, and so shall you do with his garment, and so shall you do with any lost article of your brother which he has lost and you have found. You shall not ignore it. Notice the things the Torah is mentioning over here: the ox, sheep, donkey, the garment, or any lost article of your brother. Same exact things. You see that? Same four. And the Torah tells us you shall not ignore it. You shall surely return it to your friend. Let me just mind my own business. Stay in my lane. Let me just pretend like I didn't see the lost dog on the. Not allowed. You have to try and return the lost object. But I'm not going to share the whole Talmud with the Gemara in Baba Metzia. Talks at length about why does the Torah need to give 4 examples of a lost object. Just say a object. Is there a difference if it's a lost ox or a lost sheep or a lost garment or a lost? What's the difference? So the Gemara gives a reason. Trust me, the Gemara gives a reason for each one of these items why the Torah needed to specify this. What additional law you learn from an ox? What additional law you learn from a donkey? We learn from a cloak that is not alive. A cloak has lines. One shirt from a different shirt. And then the end of the Gemara is regarding the sheep. We don't know why the Torah says it. And the words of the Gemara are the Ela Amar Rava, that the Aveda, the lost sheep that the Torah describes, the Divrei Hakol Kasha. According to everyone, it's a question. According to all the different opinions the Gemara brings, according to all the opinions, it's a question why the Torah needs to say these words. And the Rebbe brings an explanation. According to everyone, to return the lost sheep is the most difficult. Kasha means ox. A guy has impulses. A guy has desires. A guy has, he's an impulsive. He's a person. But once you rechannel his fire, and once you redirect him, now he'll be fiery and energetic in studying Torah and in praying with, right? In fact, we know, means that there's a lot of produce community power of an ox. An ox can be a very dangerous animal. Very, very dangerous animal. That's if you don't know how to control it. That's if you're waving red in front of it. But if you can put a onto it and onto it, with an ox you can produce a field, you can plow a whole field. You can have, yes, the wild ox is dangerous and it's full of passion and energy. But once you channel the ox, now it's inspired you. And the donkey, as people read before the donkey, it's true. It's hard to get it. It's naturally apathetic. To redirect the donkey is stubborn. The donkey has a commitment to God, and Kabbalah's always been the yoke of heaven. Once it decides this is the way I should do, they don't get distracted very easily. That kind of person, once they're committed to Torah, once they're committed to whatever it is they're doing, they're committed. They're focused. They're going to be real. The garment, we talk about the garment means rebellious. There's also a verse how the garments have the fragrance of Gan Eden. Garments can express the fragrance of God, of the heavenly garment of Gan Eden. A rebellious person can be taught to be as pleasing and as smell as beautiful as the fragrance of Gan Eden. But the lost sheep, that's very difficult. Says the Gemara, L'divrei Hakol Kasha. According to all the different rabbinic interpretations in the Mishnah and in the Talmud, to find a lost sheep and to talk sense and to talk logic and to re-inspire a sheep that is lost in a herd and feels safe in the herd and feels validated in the herd and is convinced the herd must be right because the herd, that's the hardest kind of lost object. That's the hardest kind of object that us guardians, Jews, give up on our independence, to stand up for our values, to stand up for what we know is right, and just go along with what everyone else is doing. And yet the Torah tells us, you're not allowed to hide from it. If you see a lost sheep, you're not allowed to say, just stay in your lane, don't get involved, don't argue, don't argue, don't listen. Opportunity to be of influence, an obligation to be of influence. And this is the point. So the Rebbe talks in the Sikha that we have to bring, so go back to our verses. What do you do with this person, this Jew, this guardian that failed? You bring him to the judge. Bring him to the judge, and then he swears, makes an oath, etc. Bring him to the judge means you have to bring him to the Rebbe. To bring him to the judge, to bring him to spirituality, you have to bring him to God, and then you bring him to the judge, you bring him to the Rebbe, you bring him to a shul, you bring him to a community, you bring him to a place. That's the only way. But this is the message for us, my friends. The meaning of the Bible is that we are all guardians. Paid guardians, borrowers. For that, you can look at last year's class. The difference if you view yourself as an unpaid guardian or a paid guardian. It's a whole. But how you view yourself, paid or unpaid, or a borrower, at the end of the day, we are all guarding the gift that God entrusted into us. We swore to keep it holy, to keep it pure. We have an ox. We have sometimes impulse, desire, and we have a cold, apathetic donkey, and we have a rebellious spirit of the garment, and we have sometimes the safety of the herd, and we're afraid to stand up for what's right. We have to go to our spiritual action, our courage to not sheep, to not lose our identity, and to stand strong as a proud Jew, as a strong Jew, proud of who we are, courageous who we are, and with that, they came from, and that is that we fulfill our mission faithfully and loyally the way God wants us to. Okay, good night, my friends.